Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in today on a great viewer comment. It seems like this is sort of rising up in the ranks here on the Peace and Harmony channel, is a proliferation or an increase in the number of people who are commenting. Not only are they identifying this behavior pattern of manipulation, of sort of one-upmanship, of the duplicity and the pathological lying, not only in one important relationship, but in a whole slew of relationships. In other words, don't follow the crowd. What happens when you find yourself sort of surrounded by an onslaught or a circle of influence of those people who are really just sort of in that egoic, unconscious mind state? So just meaning they're ego based. It's all about what I've done, where I've gone, what I have, me. And they just create just sort of a inner circle for a number of those individuals who find themselves sort of entrapped in this circle of influence. Birds of a feather flock together. And you might find or feel that you don't sort of fit in or are unhappy with your current sphere of influence, your current surroundings, your current emotional profile when you're around specific others. In other words, you find yourself surrounded by a number of narcissists or manipulative others, even malignant narcissists, psychopathic, or what they might call the flying monkeys. And so what happens when you are surrounded or in a climate of a number of people who are of this ilk, who are of this sort of personality type, this pattern of relating to others, this sort of duplicity, treating others as a stepping stone, and that you are not appreciated and you're not recognized for your abilities. You are not recognized or acknowledged for your good works. You are not acknowledged or, recognized with eye contact that is based in honesty and truth. The eyes, they say, are the windows of the soul. And it's my feeling that, if you are deprived of healthy, functional communication with others that involves eye contact and that involves listening and that involves presence, you are going to experience some sort of, difficulty of getting the gears churning, feeling that, the engine is not well oiled, that things kind of are in fits and starts, or you're in situations that just don't feel right. They're not flowing. They're not moving harmoniously. They're based in a foundation of something which you're finding to be disease-oriented, meaning lack of ease, creating difficulty, a lot of hard work, a lot of proving and justifying yourself to others. In other words, are you constantly having to explain yourself to this group or groups of people? In other words, defend and justify yourself. When you're around people who are narcissistic, it's about what they can present or appear as if. The public persona, the ego, what it all looks like and not what it really is, can create a lot of cognitive dissonance, particularly in those people who are real, who are authentic and truth-based. They don't want to cover up the charades any longer. They don't want to sugarcoat their feelings. They want to be able to express themselves and not have to worry about the response or reaction from others, or lack of support of others, or maybe that others, if they hear from you, they're going to go running for the hills. When you are surrounded by a number of people who are narcissistic or psychopathic or living, just sort of living a lie, lying to themselves, lying to each other, and particularly being dishonest in their communication, especially with people who are quote unquote innocent, nice, sweet, accommodating, people who are gentle, people who are giving, people who have sensitivity and empathy for them, who, want to be there by their side. They appreciate them. And so they want, a two-directional relationship, at least on some level. And yet you might not find this to be the case. Yes, birds of a feather flock together, and narcissists will team up and they will band up and they'll, it all depends, living the lie, jockeying. I call it basically jockeying for position. Who's going to take the number one slot? If one starts to slide back, and it's just like they're all eyeing the prize, circling around the kitty in the middle, meaning, who's going to be the power monger? Who's going to get the recognition? Who's going to get the support? Almost like a political debate. And you will find that they will maintain, narcissists and people who are psychopathic, they need others to, sort of get them where they need to go. Meaning that not on a friendship or relationship basis, but there's usually some sort of ulterior motive or reason. We see it in business. They're chumming up with someone who has a long-standing employee, has a wealth of contacts, a wealth of information, and, next thing you know, they're buddying up, and then the next thing you know, after that, they're trying to turn against them behind their back. They, give a feeling of trust, and then they surprise you with pulling the rug out from underneath you, and there's no trust. And it's oftentimes people are shocked in disbelief, oftentimes because it is ruinous, it is life-altering, it is life-changing. Not just like, oh, I don't have someone to go out to the movies with this weekend, but I don't have a place to live, I don't have a marriage partner, I don't have a parent for my children who are healthy, I don't have a job, I don't have a community, I don't have a place to live, I don't have a place for my kids to play. I mean, we're talking, big, life-changing experiences where they sort of flip on their supply. And it's based on this sort of trust, but it's more of a using or playing people for a fool, for a fiddle. In other words, there's a duplicitous nature, a two-sidedness, a two-facedness. What you see is not what you get. These people are like emotional salamanders where they will change their personality to fit the circumstance or whatever it is that they want. So there's not a lot of continuity or, source foundation. And it's not that they're just, accommodating, in other words, walking slower when, someone's in a wheelchair or a walker, or speaking more slowly because someone can't understand you. We're talking a lot different about, really changes of personality. So just like, you might slow down if you're walking with someone who is slower walking or handicapped, that's normal, natural, empathetic consideration. These people, though, they put on a false facade. It's not that they're accommodating. They'll appear to be with, it's an inherent sort of conflict of interest. In other words, they've got promises here, and they've got promises there, and they've got promises there, all that really sort of overlap and are a conflict of interest. In other words, there's cognitive dissonance. What you see is not what you get. This will unravel trust in the relationship. So a lot of people find if they are surrounded by a number of people like this, who are like, moving personas, you don't know if they're good for it. You don't know if they're bad for it. You don't know if you can rely on them. All you know is that you find that you have a lot of energy that is spent struggling to recover trust with this individual. And it will unravel and destroy your own self-trust and your own sort of inner body experience where you can be relaxed and coherent. In other words, working in alignment with your values, your goals, and what you want, and life begins to take an automatic flow process where you're working on auto-suggestion. Your subconscious is not alarmed. Your fight or flight system, it doesn't have to always be switched on. You don't have to be worried all the time. Are they going to grill you? Are they going to leave you? Are they going to, be Facebooking somebody who is, another contender, or, someone who is seeking a, work or, close relationship with them. So there's a lot of paranoia that will continue to plague on a consistent and chronic basis. And this is not healthy to always be in that fearful state. It'll arouse the hormones of stress, the cortisol and the adrenals. This is not good food. It is not good fuel for your physiology to be always on the stress hormones, pushing, despite, that we're in the information age where, you can pay your phone bill in 6 seconds. You can order from Amazon and get 10 things ordered in a matter of 5 minutes. There's this value that everything that's quicker is better. And the narcissists love to be part of this. So oftentimes you can find yourself just sort of elbowed out of a perspective because they're all in this sort of egoic, look at me, aren't I the greatest thing since sliced bread, ego mentality. And, they will use others, especially if you are the supportive type, the warm-hearted type, the affectionate and giving type. So you might have found yourself sort of programmed and conditioned to be in a role that is very supportive of others, and who really likes support of others other than those people who need it on an egoic fuel basis, the psychic vampires, who will leech out your positive energy. Period. End of story. Period. End of story. They will take a lot of your happiness away, your positive outlook, your focus, your goal orientation, your flow, and your momentum, otherwise known as, life. Doesn't have to be life on easy street, but at least there's some feeling of, flow, meaning we've got, it's moving. We got it going here. We're doing this, we have a degree of reliability and trust, and where you don't have to overanalyze what's going to happen in the relationship, what's going to happen today, what news am I going to find out. And, you'll find that these people are oftentimes not there for you when the going gets tough, when the road gets, patchy. They're more likely to find fault with you than finding fault with the reality. And then, spinning it off as if there's something wrong with you. And a lot of people who are unknowing take this to heart, not just for a little bit of time, not for a couple weeks, but we are talking about for years, decades, and lifetimes. We had a viewer who has been involved with this for either 43 or 53 years, and I think it's 43 years, and they are breaking out. It is difficult. Okay, life is difficult. M. Scott Peck, yes, but it doesn't mean that your whole life has to be difficult. Yes, you'll have difficult stages of your life and different, where you have to say, whoa, I need to reevaluate here. We need to get back to the drawing board. We need to reevaluate where we're going, and let's get all hands on deck to get there. When you're with a narcissist, you'll find that they will, not show up for you the way that you show up for them. So there's this cognitive dissonance. There's no two-way street emotionally. It is, and I think that's why a lot of people get stuck in these relationships for a long period of time, because they're kind of waiting for that cycle to come through, where either they go, wow, I do appreciate your support is unique, and I do appreciate your love is unique, your giving is unique, and I will stop the narcissistic behavior. I'll stop the lying. I'll stop the cheating. I will stop this, and that you're right. You are my best fit, my better half, my main squeeze, more so than anyone else. I think a lot of people are kind of waiting for that to come around, just sort of like, clockwork. In other words, you were there for them and then shocked when they do not provide the same in return. And that oftentimes causes people to struggle to then over-obligate to the narcissist to try to secure that trust back. Rather than putting it in the trust in the narcissist, be able to have the self-esteem and the self-trust and the knowing and ability to embrace the reality that the trust has to begin with you. begin to rely on self-trust. Self-trust, trusting yourself and your feelings, especially if you've had a problem with others being very dismissive of your feelings, of your needs, minimizing your viewpoint, not giving you the time of day, and not giving you eye contact, especially in your formative years, either as a child, if you found that you had a narcissistic or psychopathic parental figure, and we have a lot of those here on the channel. God love you, and for hanging in there and for seeking the truth and seeking an answer. Not everybody has the fortitude and the strength. A lot of people just spend their lives in the dark, and it ain't no fun because it only gets worse. So you need to exit stage left from that sort of trust that you're putting in them, and not saying that I don't trust the world, but saying I trust myself. I trust myself. In fact, that can be one of your astralmations and one of your aspirations that you put in your affirmation box, your astralmation box. I trust myself above all else. And so, because oftentimes the reparative stage in the relationship with these individuals, especially if it's a whole circle of people, of course you feel outnumbered. You feel overwhelmed. The flying monkeys, they don't want to see it your way. It wouldn't be the popular opinion. Why consider this? I don't have a problem with this. I'm not as close to them as you are. So you'll find that the flying monkeys, meaning it's a term given to the other people who are narcissistic supporters, who take on the supply, they take on the egoic treatment, and they just kind of shrug it off, and they don't let it really bother them, or they support it, and they sort of fan the flames of this sort of ego in the other, because then they can sort of, be in that circle. In other words, it's better to be an insider than an outsider, and subject to scapegoating, or subject to mimicry, or bad mouthing, or any of the other, splitting and behaviors and gaslighting that the narcissist will do to sort of program and condition the way others perceive you. So, the problem with the group of others, if you're surrounded by a lot of, people, predominantly, you might be closer to one, but who are narcissistic or psychopathic, you'll find that oftentimes they won't have a very true or rich emotional life, meaning based on truth and continuity and coherence. Truth, continuity, and coherence, meaning, they don't really follow through. They might have a big talk. They might, lie about their job opportunities. They might lie about their fidelity. They might lie about what they did, or where they're going, or on vacation, or their finances. They just have no problem. All sorts of things, on the LinkedIn, false profiles, false Facebook pages. I mean, they will fool, all sorts of people. And it just shocks me that people would go ahead and lie on those platforms. I guess maybe it doesn't shock me, but it's just, why base your life on a lie? Why put yourself through that? Why do that to yourself and others? To me, as a person of empathy and someone who is really working for those people who have been victimized, it's important to understand, that they don't stop at anything, and it will shock you and oftentimes cause you to want to, release your pain onto them, but it's only going to oftentimes result in more pain. It only makes the pain worse. It only makes you feel more ineffective, because the narcissist does not feel that they have done anything wrong. It is business and life as usual for them. The psychopath, unequivocally, it is business as usual. They will just take advantage and deceive and split, meaning, they could, be married. You could be, in a pre-marital stage where you're talking about, getting married, or maybe they've proposed, or you're talking about future, goals together, and you put all your eggs in the basket, you're committed, and the next thing you find that they aren't anywhere close to being commitment material, that they are not anywhere close to living their truth. They are not anywhere close to being coherent inside. They're still trying to live the lie and be their, alpha, egoic self, where they feel that entitlement, that they can just mistreat others and they are amused or entertained or rewarded for it. So, and just like as, we get a lot of commenters, and the sociopath, believe me, I get a lot of messages from these people, and they'll reaffirm what I've said. They can say unequivocally with the smirk, I know exactly the look that it is, and sometimes it just comes out of nowhere, and it will sometimes creep people out. Other times it really glues people in, and they are aware of this. So this is something that you are truly feeling. And so it can be very scary when you're like, I am surrounded and my inner circle of influence is all these types of people. You will find them in companies, you will find them in departments, you'll find them in specific industries, specifically, a lot of the music and, a lot of those sort of industries where you've got, movie stars, other TV shows, all that sort of on stage, where they are in that ego persona, business, finances, particularly, and, your higher level offices. We're talking about your C-level. You find business owners, they tend to really sort of flock to specific industries in specific levels of power, because they love the power and they love the acknowledgement and recognition. You are, all that, which is oftentimes just fanning their ego, not based on something real and sustainable, but just on the fact that they did this, they did that. It's very egoic based. And oftentimes their wins are based on exploiting or taking from others, or having a duplicitous nature, which is not right, that is not fair. So if you find yourself surrounded, then you have to realize that you're then sort of looking into an external locus of control. You can't stop their behavior. If you are still in contact with these others and you're sort of a witness now, you're seeing what they're doing. You no longer want to take it laying down. You no longer want to take it sitting still. But to try to go to the source of the problem, meaning their ego, and then challenge them, attack them, why did you do this to me? You are, you're a this, you're a that. You're only just causing yourself more hurt. It becomes an exercise of futility to try to challenge and attack these individuals. You're wasting your own energy, you're wasting your breath, you're wasting your heart, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your joy, you're wasting your opportunity. They are not going to give you the closure and say, I'm sorry that I did this. You're not going to get this from these people. They have too much of an ego, a persona. They have too much pride. They're not going to give it up. But yet, the problem is oftentimes is that they're not going to come to you with apologies. They're not going to, fess up. Wouldn't that make it so much better if they could just apologize? If they could own the error of their ways? If they could just say, wow, I really did you wrong here. This was not right. If they could just, come down to level and level with you, then it would probably feel so much better. And to say, you know what, this has been a horrible experience for you. We're terribly sorry. You need an apology, and, you need to know that so having that explanation, you're not going to, oftentimes people are struggling and want that conversation, and they're sort of putting their life in the balance, waiting for this to occur. So if you're waiting on that, banking on that, hoping for that, and feel that that's going to give you closure, I would really reevaluate, because that's going to be, some flawed thinking. You need to evaluate and say, rather than looking for closure in them, put the seed of confidence and knowing in yourself where it belongs. Responsibility, accountability. I know that I know that I know that I know. And this is how it is. I trust myself. I know, and a lot of people, maybe they try to follow in their footsteps. Be a narcissist for a day, be a narcissist for a year. Try to keep up with that and, see if you could just sort of, and it doesn't work. You find that, you don't like to be that person. You don't like to be angered. You don't like to be greedy. You don't like to be the center of attention. You don't like to hurt others. You don't like to flaunt yourself. You don't like to act fake. You might discover these things. And so it is. Namaste. So it is. And own that truth. It doesn't make you a less of a person because you don't want to live a lie. You don't want to be an imposter. You don't want to live, in hiding. You don't want to live in guilt. You don't want to live in fear. You don't want to live in anxiety. You don't want to live there. It's like a place in the map. Been there, done that. Don't want the t-shirt. I'm out of here. And I don't want to go back. And that is okay. So it's okay to sort of, but it's a feeling that people are disowning their entire existence or their, social group or who they celebrate, and communicate with. So there might be a feeling of loss. But, yet you have to realize that you're feeling this because you are not having reflected back and getting that spark of light and life that you need and you deserve, particularly that of eye contact, someone being present, being able to focus and have their undivided attention, and having a sense of, heart to heart, truth to truth. I get you now, that someone is willing to, get above their ego for a moment to listen to hear your perspective, even if it's different, and be patient. Oftentimes the narcissist is the flip opposite, and you are not going to get this. And then your life force will sustain itself for as long as it can, and then you'll find that you're petering out. It is not sustainable. It is not life-giving to you. And so it is. So if you found yourself surrounded with a number of these people, just, know birds of a feather flock together. And I must find my own feather. I must find my own, my own stripes. I must find my own spots. I must find my own fabric of who I am. And, and I need to communicate this to self, not to them. I'm going to find somebody else, you don't need to prove it to them. You need to prove it and give it to yourself. Rather than wasting your breath, give yourself that energy and that life and that communication. Give yourself that commitment. Give yourself that respect. Give yourself that compassion and forgiveness. You've been through a lot, and it's been through a long period of time. You can do this. You can change. You can change what you're focusing on, and your values are maturing. You have learned. You have learned from this experience. It's like a schooling of life. To say, what? I graduated. Here's my diploma. I'm leaving the building. Thank you very much. Throwing my hat in the air. Adios, baby, bye. And you don't have to rip out, with, flooring the car and making a show or a scene. Do it for yourself. Do it so that I'm finally relaxed. I'm finally feeling whole again. I'm finally feeling at peace. I'm finally feeling safe. I'm finally feeling that I can live a balanced life. I'm making better decisions. These feelings, these are experiences, are what you want to tend towards, because you'll be building up your security and your decisiveness. You'll be able to build it up. And then with time, repetition and experience, it'll become effortless, meaning you'll have practiced it. You'll have completed it. You will have applied it, so it becomes automatic. It really needs to grow on you and in you. But you have to understand how the physiology works, is that it does take time. You do have to stick with it. You have to stay the course. and then for it to get, so in other words, it's going to get rough and then a little bit craggy and then a little bit smoother, and then it'll start to flow. So you have to go through those stages, just like as if you were going through, years of education. Each grade you get a little bit better, and you don't have to stop and think, 1 + 1 = 2, where before you had to stop and learn that, 1 + 1 apple = 2 apples. It's a similar thing with trusting yourself once you kind of have exposed this individual, because that's really what it is. It's an exposure. So, vote for yourself and vote for your independence and your liberty and self-trust and your interests, your values, getting to know yourself, and you'll be able to attract and interact with others on the healthier level where it's the real you. Give yourself some time, give yourself a chance. You can do this. Invest in your own trust, your own credibility, your own knowingness. I know this. I've got this. Get used to that, recycling that feeling within, and really tap into that and be deliberate, and, make sure that you enforce these feelings, direction, and behavior, so to really give a chance to just sort of resonate and be able to sort of get you hook, line, and sinker within. In other words, rather than being on that external locus of control, give your system a chance to really digest this, absorb it, and internalize it. And once you've got it, you won't want to give it away. That is your self-esteem, your I am. This is your buddy, peace and harmony with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.